Ask yourself a question. What gear do you find yourself reaching for again and again? Is there an item that you just can't live without? I'm going to show you 3 things that I absolutely can't live without, and maybe you shouldn't either. And you might be surprised what the number 1 item is. It's time to think outside the box. Whether you're a seasoned landscape photographer or you're just getting started, these items are guaranteed to help improve your photography. In addition to a camera and a sturdy tripod, there are basically 3 things that I've determined that are so instrumental in helping me capture my vision that I just can't live without them. So to kick things off, we're going to get started with number 3. A cable release. This is actually a cable release for an old SLR, and I still use these today. But the modern version is the remote shutter release. Now, of course, if you watch my videos, you know that I use this every time. And it's one thing that has consistently helped me to capture the sharpest images. And as a low-light landscape photographer, I primarily shoot sunrises and sunsets, and therefore, I'm a big proponent of using a tripod with this to get the sharpest images. And also to help minimize camera shake, I favor using the mirror up feature on my camera as well. And on that note, I'm not particularly fond of the camera's self-timer. I see a lot of people using the timer, and I think that's better than using nothing. But if you don't know, the self-timer can be used to help minimize camera shake as well, because you're not holding the camera when you fire the shutter. So basically, you set the timer, and then it goes off, and you take the picture. However, on a DSLR, when the mirror goes up, it hits a little bumper in there, and it causes a vibration in the camera. Now, although this is minor and you may not even notice it, but it's vibration nonetheless. And unfortunately, the self-timer feature, it immediately raises the shutter when the mirror comes up. So the mirror comes up, the shutter fires, so you still have that vibration present, which is not good. Now, I realize that some of you might shoot mirrorless cameras, and that's a non-issue, and so be it. But for those of us that still like the DSLRs and have the mirrors, this is something to think about. The mirror up feature allows me to wait a few seconds after the mirror goes up, and then I fire the shutter. Basically, it's a 2-step process. So if you look at it like this, one press of the shutter release raises the mirror. This gives me time to pause, and then I can push it again, and that fires the shutter. And so the mirror goes up, hits the mirror box, the vibration stops, and then I can fire the shutter. So I get sharper images that way. So using a remote shutter release serves 2 purposes. One is it allows me hands-free operation of the camera, so I don't have to touch the camera, but also it helps me to focus on the composition. It takes my attention away from the camera and puts it on the composition, and that's where it should be. Also, a remote shutter release is lightweight and it's relatively inexpensive compared to what it does. Most cameras have options. They have wireless controls like my Canon M50, but that's another discussion for another day. But if you're a landscape photographer and you haven't tried a remote shutter release, I highly suggest giving one a shot. As I mentioned earlier, the remote shutter release allows me to focus on the composition, which leads me to the number 2 item on my list. That's right, you guessed it, a circular polarizer. As landscape photographers, most of us are going to be around water at some point, and a circular polarizer is a fantastic item for removing glare that's reflected by water. Also, circular polarizers can help bring contrast and color to an otherwise ordinary sky. And the effects of a circular polarizer, that's just one of those things that it can't be reproduced or saved by Photoshop and post-processing. Of course, with AI on the rise, it seems like Photoshop is improving daily, so who knows. But let's just say that it's hard to remove glare from leaves and rocks and water and other parts of your composition in post-processing. Another benefit of a circular polarizer is that it allows you to see past the glare on the water surface. Basically, it allows you to see underneath it. And this helps reveal elements of a composition that would otherwise be hidden. So, just something to think about. A circular polarizer gives you more options in the field, and that's why it's my number 2 on the list. Now, gear like this is exciting and it's fun to talk about, but all the gear in the world is worthless without a good composition. I mean, after all, what good is a circular polarizer in removing glare from a dull or uninteresting subject? And that's why the number 1 item on my list is the view catcher. The view catcher is a small 3x3 masterfully engineered piece of plastic that most of us wouldn't give a second look. without knowing its value in the field. Although I think it was initially designed for canvas painting artists to judge color and composition, this little plastic body is about 18% gray, and this little small hole allows the artist to isolate the true color of a subject. It also has an adjustable slide, which is my favorite part, that helps evaluate different aspect ratios. Plus, you can zoom it in and out to help frame up a composition, so you really get a good idea of what kind of composition you're in for. I think what's most impressive about this little device is that if you had one, it fits right in your pocket, and that is super handy. One can easily carry this, frame up a composition without ever pulling the camera out of the bag, and that's something to think about. Because someone like me, who frequently hikes and moves around quite a bit with a backpack on, the ability to take this little card out and just get an idea of your composition, it just saves time, and it's very important to be able to do that. It allows me to get an idea where my composition is going to be without having to stop, take off my backpack, get out my camera, select the right lens, put it on the camera, frame up the composition, and then decide whether I'm going to take the picture or not. Although it's extremely simple, this little view catcher is one of those things that I just can't live without. On a side note, long before I discovered this little hidden gem from binge watching old Ben Horn videos, I was trying to devise something myself that I could make use, or that I could make work for kind of quickly composing an image. And little did I know someone else had already invented it. After a quick web search, I discovered this little item from Amazon. I think it's made by a company called the Color Wheel Company. Regardless, I'll leave a link to this in the video description. And it's not an affiliate link, I'm just saying, but in fact, all these items are solely for your benefit. I enjoy sharing these things I've learned throughout the years, and matter of fact, I've benefited quite a bit myself from some of these things, so I'm just saying. Anyway, sharing's caring, right? If you enjoyed this video, you may also enjoy a couple of other videos that I have out there. One is how to choose the best camera for landscape photography, and the other one is 5 pro tips to instantly improve your photography using any camera. And I'll leave links to those in the video description. If you like this video, make sure you hit that like button. Oh yeah, and before I forget, I'm trying to hit that magical 1,000 subscriber mark by the end of the year, so if you feel inclined to help out the channel, hit that like button and consider subscribing. Also, leave a comment, share your thoughts. And as always, if I don't see you down the road, maybe I'll see you on the trail.